Well, how did the big guys put into effect the Russian error? It began by destroying faith in family by establishing toxic feminism. A toxic feminism which predicated a woman's value based on what she could produce in the marketplace. In other words, a woman only had value if she could work outside the home. Well, in order for that to happen, think Russia in 1917, obviously she could not bear children inside the womb for 9 months. So the Russian era introduced artificial contraception. And should that tactic come up short, and she actually did become pregnant, then it was important to eliminate the clump of cells. We used to say, you're with child. All of a sudden the word changed. Oh, you're pregnant. You can terminate a pregnancy. Just try and terminate a with child. Language matters. So the Russian era introduced abortion, murdering the baby in the womb, calling it a clump of cells, calling it a fetus. It's not, by the way, when the angel Gabriel appeared to Mary, he didn't say you're going to bear a clump of cells. He didn't say you're going to bear a fetus. You're going to bear the Son of God. Well, should that tactic come up short and the woman actually give birth to a baby, the Russian era introduced daycare at the earliest possible age for the dual purpose, one, of getting that woman back to work, and two, putting that child at the youngest possible age into family bond destroying daycare, especially government-funded daycare where the child could be indoctrinated directly, intentionally, and even more insidiously in the socialist ideology that devalues parental authority. Why do you think they're trying to teach little kids under the age of puberty? Oh, little boy, you think you might be a girl. You're a little confused, but hey, we support you. We're not going to tell your parents. Lenin famously and essentially said, give me a child for 4 years and I'll have him for life. Why do you think they're putting the little kids that eventually did get born into Russian indoctrination camps called, what do we call it now? Pre-K, Head Start. I talk about that in a second. That is the Russian error, removing God as creator of priceless human beings made in his image and likeness and replacing God with a godless civil government that puts a price on everyone's head based on what the person's worth is to the government. This whole thing that Obama did, this nationalist, socialist health care, well, it sounds like a good idea. I know, everybody I've ever talked to said my insurance rates went up, right? Here's what's going to happen. You hit 70, you're no longer valuable to the government. In fact, you're a drag. So we're not going to pay for any operation you may need. We're not going to try to heal you, but you can have a pill. They're doing that in other countries of the world. Western Europe has just gone nuts. The Netherlands is, wow, gone. Canada. Exactly, Canada. I expect you readily recognize these things from U.S. history, the outward signs of this actually happening here in our country. I remember as if it were yesterday being in grade school in the mid-'60s. In a Catholic school, the pictures were black and white because we couldn't afford the color books that the public schools had. And there I was sitting there, and I remembered as if it was yesterday. There's the 2 pages open in the book, and down here in the bottom left-hand corner was a picture of an Israeli daycare place. In Israel at the time, and I think there still is, mandatory military service for all young men and women. And as it happens, no big surprise, some of these young men and women got married, and some were having babies. And so the government had to set up daycare. And the story I read in my geography textbook back in the 60s was a study that showed how that compared to children living at home with mommy care, there is no substitute. These children in daycare were failing to thrive. I'm sick and tired of people saying to me, well, they went to daycare and they turned out okay. Because okay is not the standard by which God will judge any one of us. Okay is not good enough for Almighty God. Jesus did not say, well, I've worked a few miracles, good enough for your salvation, I'm going back to heaven. Jesus went to Calvary. Again, you got to get this straight in our heads. Okay is not the standard. The standard of Almighty God is perfection. As always, don't take my word for it. Jesus says so. Be perfect. And for the slam dunk, I love this line. Our Blessed Mother did not shuffle Jesus off to daycare so that she could pursue a career. Get it straight, dear family. Daycare is not from heaven. It is a man-made device from hell. And okay is not the standard. I just researched all this. I like to fact check myself. So I researched all this Israeli daycare. Just listen to what I found, a website that boasts. I found this Wednesday. So what's today? Sunday, right? On Wednesday. A website that boasted as follows. This is verbatim. Ne'emat, the largest provider of child care services in Israel, welcomes 17,000 preschool boys and girls to its 200 centers into a warm and nurturing learning environment in which they develop the skills needed to succeed in school and in life. Our world-renowned daycare is for children ranging from ages 3 months up to 3 years. I'm quoting, recognizing the importance of early childhood education, Ne'emat pioneered preschool education programs that became the model for Project Head Start in the United States. Do the math, dear family. 17,000 children, 3 and under, in 200 centers. That's 85 precious children per center. We've known since the 60s that was a bad idea. It's in 2011, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services commissioned a study to evaluate Head Start's effectiveness. Head Start was launched in 1965, so they had 46 years' worth of data. And at the time, the U.S. government had spent $180 billion on the program. And at the time of the study, the program was serving over 1 million children in all 50 states at a cost of about $8,000 per student. So over 3 years, that's $24,000. What'd they get for all that money? The study found that the program had only a small positive impact on children's experiences only through the preschool years. But nevertheless, advantages that they'd gained in Head Start yielded only a few statistically significant differences in outcomes by the end of first grade. So hear that again. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services found few statistically significant differences despite paying $8,000 per child per year. The study led the Time columnist Joe Klein, hardly a conservative rag, to say that the study was comprehensive, the positive effects were minimal, and vanished by the end of first grade. Head Start simply does not work. Listen, every mother, some people don't like to hear this. Every mother who doesn't like to hear it, that put their kids in daycare, you swallowed some of the rat poison.